What should children be learning in the early years? Now, this is one question that I know that a number of parents have for teachers and the schools. Is this the time where the children get to read before age 3, or where they get to write full sentences before age 4, or where they are able to write from 1 to 200 and solve mathematical problems before age 5? That is what we will find out today. Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is from Michael-Ayeni, and I am an early years educator and an elocutionist. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. Here I talk about early years education, phonics, and diction. The early years is from birth to 5, and this is the time where we build educational foundations for our children. Now, when I say educational foundations, I do not necessarily mean mathematics and English language alone. There are a lot of skills that the children can gain in the early years. Talk about physical development, emotional development, language development, academic development, and a whole lot more. All of these skills are to be taught to the children in the early years to build a solid foundation for them. The early years is not a race. The early years is not a competition, and the early years does not require pressure. All the children need is solid foundation that help them become confident as they interact with their peers and even with the adults. What are some of the skills that our children need in the early years? The first one is communication and language skills. In communication and language skills, the children learn to express themselves, they learn to listen and follow instructions, they learn to build their attention span, they learn to recall information and to use the appropriate vocabulary. So these skills are to be taught to the children through interactions, storytelling, singing, role play, and rich conversations. This is not the time to encourage nodding or simple yes or no answers. There are times where you would encourage them and prompt them to use sentences in their response. You can start with words based on their age. As a child progresses to age 3 or 4, you start to encourage sentences, and gradually you build up on that to help them to express their own thoughts in their own ways. Children who are not able to decode information or to retain information cannot be bombarded with mathematics and English language problems. They cannot actually retain the information of numbers or of sounds if they do not remember or if they do not have the words to help them to express their thoughts. So it is important to support our children to communicate, to express themselves, to tell us their own ideas about different things, to start to help them to recall the information that they have been given by gradually asking about things that they have seen. Can you mention? Can you point to it? What is this item called? That way, you're helping them to be able to retain and to develop their attention. When all of these is done, it will be easier for them to actually tell you about numbers, tell you about sounds as they are gradually introduced to them. So communication and language skills are very important in the early years, and we should encourage this first before we start to look out for their ability to write numbers or letters. Now, one thing to note is that before a child can write well, the child must first be able to speak well, and before a child can read fluently, the child should understand the language that he is required to read. So without these, there can be no reading or writing. Next, we have personal, social, and emotional skills. These skills are very important, and I can even say they can be the most important skills that your child needs before any form of learning takes place. This is where children learn to take turns, to manage their emotions, to build friendships, to develop confidence, and also to become independent, whether in their learning or in their tasks or in being able to do one or two things for themselves. These skills are very important. your child's ability to build a social interaction with the peers, your child's ability to actually regulate their emotions. Of course, children start off by throwing tantrums because they think that is the right way to express themselves. But as they grow older, we start to teach them to use their words. We start to teach them to talk about how they are feeling. We start to teach them different ways that they can learn to calm down and to regulate these emotions in order to be able to have good relationships with others. If these skills are not taught, child might end up thinking that it is okay to throw things when they are hurt, it is okay to actually get into a fight, or that it is okay to actually cry and scream when you do not have your way. All of these are expected of children, but it is required that we help them to understand the right and wrong ways to express themselves. And these skills will not jump on children. They are taught, they are encouraged, and then we gradually help them to understand the right way to express, the right way to relate with others, the right way to work cooperatively, and help them to become independent in managing all of these as they grow older. One thing to note, these skills matter a lot more than mathematics or English. Next, we have physical development. This has to do with your child's ability to use their muscles, whether the tiny muscles, which we refer to as fine motor skills, or the large muscles, which we refer to as the gross motor skills. Both skills are very important, and it helps your child to understand movement, coordination, and balance. And the more you engage them in these activities, the better they get. So of course, encourage a lot of running, jumping, climbing, balancing, and also with your fine motor skills, encourage a lot of touching, opening bottles, using the small scissors, threading, buttoning their clothes, tying their shoelaces when they are able to. All of these would help them to be able to use these small muscles correctly and gradually set the foundation for them to be able to hold their pencils. So this skill is important for your child to be able to succeed at writing. Believe me, if your child is not able to run or walk or jump, you will be worried. And so it is important that there are activities set up for them to be able to engage in all of these forms of movement so that as they grow older, they are also stronger, they are also healthier children, and they do not rely on adults to help them move around. Next, we have early literacy skills. Of course, we want our children to be able to read. We want them to be able to write. We want them to be able to become authors as well. This foundation can be set through the knowledge of phonics, where we introduce them to letter sounds, and later on, we introduce them to letter names. It is always important to start with letter sounds because the children would learn to blend words together through the knowledge of sounds, and gradually they can learn the letter names as well. It is also important that we teach them about rhyming words, recognition of different words around them, encourage them to also talk about the different things that they see, and gradually they should be able to put it down by segmenting sounds to spell, and then develop their love for books as well. The more interested your child is in reading, the better they would get at writing. The goal should not just be early reading, the goal should be joyful reading, that love and interest in reading that would expose them to the knowledge of different things around them and make them smart thinkers. That should be the goal. Next, we have mathematical skills. Yes, here we have counting of objects, writing numbers, identifying shapes, identifying and making their own patterns, and all that we can think of when it comes to mathematics. But please remember that when we talk about mathematics in the early years, it is not particularly about worksheets or writing. It is more of hands-on activities, because we're building up skills that will help them to be able to solve mathematical problems. At this point, the activities are minimal, and we can always go from simple to complex because we want to help them to understand the numbers, understand the shapes, use their language to describe them, compare objects, talk about their sizes, talk about their patterns, use vocabulary such as big, bigger, small, smaller, empty, full. Use all of these mathematical language that can help them to be able to solve problems on their own without relying on an adult. Remember that your children would learn a lot more about numbers in their primary school. So this is the time to set that foundation that would help them to become familiar with the numbers, with the shapes, with the right vocabulary and mathematical keyword before they get to this stage of learning. Next we have creativity and imagination. Yes, these are very important skills as well, and we should encourage it in the early years. Your children should be learning about art, about music, about dance, role play, building and construction. All of these will help them to bring their creativity to play, using their own imagination to talk about things that are not particularly there. But yes, they will bring their language development here as well. They will bring their literacy skills, their social skills as well, because they are playing with their peers, their emotional skills, because they are also learning to regulate their emotions when they do not get what they want, or when they have to take turns because someone needs to have a toy first. So all of these other skills come to play, and they are what we call cross-curricular link, because there is always a link to another aspect of learning in another, and that way the children learn and become independent as they relate with others. So it is important that we encourage their creativity by giving them opportunities to role play, giving them opportunities to sing, give them opportunities to dance, give them opportunities to draw, to paint, to do those things that might seem a bit messy to you. Believe me, they are actually learning to be creative, and they are learning to use their imaginative skills as well. And lastly, we have knowledge and understanding of the world. The children do need to learn about the world they live in. So this is another important skill that your children can gain in the early years. They learn about nature, they learn about the community helpers in their environment, they learn about technology, they also gain cultural awareness because they learn to understand, they learn about the different cultures and tribes that are in their environment, knowing that everybody has different beliefs, everybody has different values, everybody has different background, and they learn to tolerate others. So this is also an important skill for the children to learn in the early years, knowing that there are different people from different places in the world, and they also understand how to treat others, different things that happen in their background as compared to others. That way the children learn to look at the differences, they learn to talk about the similarities, and yes, they learn to work cooperatively and live in peace and harmony with other people. So you see, all of these skills are very important for the children to know and to learn about in the early years. So whether you're a homeschool parent or you're a teacher who's working in the school, remember that your main focus in the early years should be communication and language skills, personal, social, and emotional development skills, physical skills, early literacy skills, mathematical skills, creativity and imagination, and finally, knowledge and understanding of the world they live in. I would like you to remember this, that the early years is not a race and should not be a competition for your children. It is that time where you make sure that you provide them the required support to be confident communicators, emotionally secure learners, curious thinkers, and problem solvers. You should ensure that your children are able to manage themselves in certain situations as required of them by their ages, and be sure to provide opportunities for them to gain these skills that we have listed. Remember that the children do not magically learn all of these over time. You have to provide them with the support. You have to encourage these behaviors. You have to motivate them, maybe with your positive words, helping them to understand the rules and the consequences when they do not follow it, because you do not want to raise children who want to have their way at all times and scream and cry when they do not. Help them to understand that they need to be patient in certain cases, and it is important to wait your turn, as this might be required, maybe not at home, but sometimes in the outside world as they grow older. All of these skills can be taught to our children early, and you should be available to help them to learn. I hope that you have found this video helpful. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed watching it, or drop a comment below if you have any question and would like to learn more about how to support your children at home or your learners in the classroom. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video.